Richard and I are joined by Mark Stopforth. Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah. Enjoying the garden, enjoying the weather. Yeah,
Lovely.
it's all good.
Great to have you back on the podcast. And Richard and I
Yeah,
mentioned
thanks.
this about your book that's coming out. So this video, we want to talk to you about the concept of the book and how it came about. Can you introduce the idea of the book to us so that the audience has an idea of where this came from?
Yeah, it goes back about 18 months now, and I was approached online by the Crowwood Press, and they sort of put forward an idea for a book, but wanted to touch base first. And as you know, I'm into alla prima, which is my style, my technique, and etc. etc. So I thought, yeah, okay. I get emails like this fairly regularly, and you think, yeah or no, and I'm not really biting it really. There were two main things that swayed it for me. Was for the first thing, they were very good at communicating. Anytime I sent out an email, it was a straight back, ping, ping, ping. So I thought, good, you're on the ball. They firstly, they paid for it. So that's good in installments. And they were very clear about percentages and so on and so forth and all that sort of things. That's fine. And they also sent me a book as an example, which was by one of my favourite artists, Gareth Edwards, who's down in St Ives. And so I had a shift to that. And yeah, it's a how-to book initially, but then it goes into everything about him and his style and his background and his philosophy, and it's the whole package. And I thought that was a great idea. I thought it was really good. So it's something that I bit the bullet, and I thought this looks pretty good. So we went from there really. They gave me some ideas about the chapters. We sort of had a dialogue about that, and then it took off from there. They were very clear about time, how much time would be involved, or where your deadlines are. They were very clear about the number of words, etc., etc. So it was ticking all the boxes. So I thought, right, okay, let's go for it. And it's a completely new venture, so so different.
Yeah, and Gareth Edwards' book's called Abstract. What's your book called?
It's called Alla Prima, Skies and Seas. Fantastic. So it's all about the technique Alla Prima, which is the wet on wet. It's very, very quick, and it's throughout the book, the philosophy of my art comes through, I hope, which is that it's a very intuitive form of painting. It's very much instinctive. Going with the flow, going with the paint, what the paint wants to do, and then seeing what happens from there. So any painting I do on paper it's pretty quick. It's going to be done in 2-3 hours. I think we've said this before in conversations. Canvas is a lot longer, but I can still do the same techniques to a certain degree. But I know that with a canvas, I'm going to be with that piece for 3 or 4 days. I can be doing other things around it, another piece on paper, whatever, but it'll still be there and still be fresh, and I can still go back to it and hopefully pick up the baton again. So that's basically what it's about, Alla Prima. The actual process of writing, I really got into it. I really did enjoy it. I've done poetry in the past, and I've written my own poems and been published and all that, la-di-da. And it was just a lovely way to get back into that flow of language and thought process and analysing and just trying to create a good sentence. And I really got off on that.
So how long did it take you to get the writing developed, and was there several drafts? How did that go for you?
If I'm honest, I kind of did it first draft without too much going back and changing. What I did was set myself a goal for each day, because I have to be into a process of this is what you're doing. From 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, you're going to be writing. In the morning, you're painting. You're doing your social media around it, whatever. But now you've got this to do. You've got a deadline, so you've got to meet it. So I found that as I was writing, yes, you were editing as you go along. it's not like stream of consciousness. You know, you got to break down. But because it was a chapter, each chapter was broken down into sub chapters, headings, and I could break it down like that. And that was nice. And it was also, it became, I hope that the book is, it's almost like being in the same room and you're talking to somebody about it. It's a conversation. I didn't want to come across as being up here talking down, which sometimes some art books can be a bit like that. But it's horses for courses. So yeah, that was kind of my writing process in many ways.
Did you use the Gareth Edwards book at all as a kind of template? Did you refer to that for structure at all?
Well, the structure was given by the publishers with regards to the chapters. And then I went back to the publishers and said, right, well, I'll break down each chapter into this, this, and this. Is that okay? They were fine with that. Not really, if I'm honest. I mean, possibly with the how-to bits and to see how he didn't. I don't know if he wrote it or because his daughter was involved as well. I'm feeling it as a bit sort of third person. So I wanted to make mine first person. I'm here, I'm demonstrating, I'm doing this, and this is how I respond to yada, yada, yada. So in that respect, it's quite different, you know, it's quite different. And I'm going to go back to that again, that it has to be personal. It's a personal journey, and I make that evident throughout. And this is how I've got to here. And I can talk about certain bits, and it just became, it became just like talking to a person in the room. It's like doing a workshop. So you're in a workshop and you have to treat everybody as having no knowledge whatsoever. And they might know exactly what Malaprima is, but you have to assume that nobody knows anything about what you're doing and go from there, so that's where the teaching side really helped. Really, really helped. And I've done enough teaching in the past, and I know how to write a curriculum, and it's a story, it's a story of how to get from your objectives, how to get from A to B. So in that respect, that helped a lot. And then within that, I could wax lyrical and go off on a poetic tangent occasionally. I even managed to squeeze a poem in, even managed to get, we got permission from the Dylan Thomas Foundation to include one of his poems because it's a title for a painting. So all this was kind of part of the process. You're doing this managing and plucking things here and plucking things there and hopefully making a coherent body of work, which is the book itself.
Fantastic. And then I understand that Richard is a contributor in the book. How did that come about?
Yes, because the publisher said it would be a good idea. They said it's always nice to end up on the book with some artists that you respond to, that you admire and like, and all the rest of it, and are influenced by, and just to get their angle on their process, their studio-based practice, how they go about it. And so it was Richard, Lex Cyril, and Mark Thompson. So three, and Richard won't mind me saying this, but three very different artists in their approaches, but three, just everything that they do, everything, sorry Richard, but everything they do is amazing. So you got to get it in there, Yes, and it's this art which to me, from those three artists, is very visceral. It's a very visceral looking, the paintings are always, they've got a quality in them that can't be ignored. There's also there's a little hint. It's with my work really, is the sublime. The sublime is there throughout, and that idea of the romanticism hasn't gone away from the 18th century. It's still here. It's still finding its way through. So that was an important thing, and it was nice that those three artists then could say yes, please. And I did it through a questionnaire, through a little interview sort of thing. So each artist, exactly the same 5 questions, and every response is different. And so yeah, it was a lovely way to end the book. Yeah.
Excellent.
And I think what you're explaining there does help in a conceptual way. I think maybe we talked about this before. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who's the Czech psychologist that talks about flow, and some of the ideas in there, I often, when I think about that flow state or that I'm in it, actually having a concept like you said of when people leave the room and it's just you and the painting, I think it does help facilitate that flow. Even just the idea of that, of being able to picture that yourself, I think it's really, really important. And we've talked before about philosophy and art and how they can help each other.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's all there, the whole package.
Yeah.
The brain, we don't understand enough of the brain. We know 10% of what goes on up there. We're getting better at it, obviously, mapping the brain and seeing how the brain works. But everything is up there. Every memory, every word you've read, every picture you've looked at, it's all up there. It doesn't go away. And I'm not saying it comes through in the paintings every time, whatever, but it is there. And I was saying, I actually said it in a little post yesterday. I took a photograph from the introduction and I said something to the effect of, everything influences what I do.
Yes.
It's not just being in the studio and this is the moment. Walking the dog this morning and seeing the dew on the grass and the sunlight coming through it. That influences my painting. I don't paint dew on the grass and the sunlight, but it influences who I am. I mean, for lack of a better word, it's soul, but that's I'm not embarrassed by that. That's part of it. And it's known when you're in those moments.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from, really. That's where it comes from.
And it resonates and it feeds in, and I think in many ways that's being an artist. A lot of the time is not actually painting; it is absorbing these things. It's being present in those moments to have that influence be able to seep in, so that when we are painting, there is a way of understanding these subtleties and these nuances that are painted in an abstract. We're abstracting in many ways those experiences.
Yeah.
Does poetry inform your work? Reading, literature, poetry, music, even.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, music as well. The music can change. I listen a lot. So while I'm working, I'm trying to zone out, and I listen a lot to podcasts or whatever, and it just becomes that white noise in some ways. But the music, I've been into The Revenant, the soundtrack to The Revenant, and it's mind blowing. I'm going to misquote his name now, Sakamoto or something like that, and it's just stunning. It's absolutely stunning. I can zone off, and yes, it becomes almost a part of a soundtrack to a painting, whatever. But when you do that on Instagram, you play around with it, and it does help. It does help. And I've come across people who say, "Oh, it's a bit naff, whatever," and I don't go with that. I don't buy that. I think it just helps. It helps people get a way in, find the emotional level, emotional content. It's the same with titles. Titles are a way in.
Yeah.
You can't ignore them. You've got to make the effort with a title. And so when I do a title and it's a little bit dry, and I go, I wasn't in the mood that particular day, but it's just you've let the painting down. I've got an agent who's, I don't know the artist's name, I might have said it before, but the artist gets the agent to title them. That's so lazy. That's so lazy.
That is. Yeah, titles are an interesting thing, and sometimes, for me, they are. I think I've got to title this, and then it's sometimes something I'm listening to, something I've been thinking about that day, something I've been reading. But I agree with you with titles that they're really, really quite important.
Yeah.
They are. And they're interesting because I try not to make them too kind of particular. So, for example, Chroma Beach on a Saturday afternoon is not that, but I often use Saturday or Friday because that's inspired from a walk I've been on. But there's a kind of an openness within it, because if we're too specific, and then you are kind of defining the painting in many ways to a singular experience or place. Whereas, and what I like about your titles is that there's this openness in there that matches the sort of open ambiguity that people can find within your work and see within it. And there's a real art in titling things.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the poetry comes through then as well. Yeah. And sometimes I find also with a theme. So if the same theme's going through, and I've got, I don't know, for instance, say with Solace, a picture with a title Solace, and I've then got other painters that follow, and I think, well, that's a nice theme. And I will do the Solace 2, Solace 3, Solace 4 game, because they are a unit. Yeah. They are a complete body in themselves. If you were so inclined to buy all 4 or 5, wonderful, but they're in a sequence.
Yeah.
Intentional or otherwise, but it's there.
Talking about music and painting, I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't know what you think about it. Say with a body of work in that sense, that it become like an album. How things, it's sort of that idea with a body of work, that how you're putting things together, and is there a sequence, how it works talking to each other, and the titles. What is the relationship then to, I've just put a body of work together, 15 paintings, and I'm trying to make each one talk to each other but be distinct.
Yeah. I don't tend to do a painting and then go on to another one straight away and another one after. I say with Nocturnes, I'm trying to create a series of Nocturnes. I kind of very much bouncy sort of way. So I'll do a Nocturne, then I'll do something that's a bit more of a seascape or landscape or whatever. I've gone to Fred Cummings and some of his gorgeous colours that he got, almost Venetian. So I'm going to go down this sort of Venetian Fred Cummings route. I'll try that. And I don't bounce. And then I'll do a sunset or whatever. And then I'll do a still life just to break it up. And then I'll come round. So I've got about 5 or 6 different sort of ways to approach each painting. I don't know what to paint on the day. I just approach the blank canvas and go, right, what should we do? Let's go for it and see what the paint wants to do. So that's the way I approach it. It's quite a natural flow to that,
So it's non-linear in that sense. It's just that, the creativity and the mind.
It's going back to the mood. It's going back to your emotions and going back to, because every time I paint, it's you relearn. I'm relearning, and I'm trying to find my way in again and remind myself, well, how does this work? How does this color work on this color, and this color work on this color, and then go from there. And how does that work with maybe the mist or whatever, the atmosphere now, and where do we go now? Where does my horizon come in? And it's constant. And I was saying this from the workshop that you're just creating problems. You create problems and problems, and you solve them, and you see where you get to, and then eventually you're out in this big expanse of you've gone into the painting, and you're having that dialogue the whole time. And I've said this as well, that it's a dialogue with the paint. You are having a conversation with the paint. You have to listen to the paint. And I know that sounds weird. I don't care if it sounds pretentious, because pretentious is good. But you're having a dialogue with the paint and seeing if you're on the same page, or is it going to end up in an argument? And most times it's an argument. But sometimes you meet that point where everything was just went in the right place and just happened and flowed again.
Well, I'm going to ask you in a minute about the images that you've sent as well, because obviously these images feature in the book. So I'd like to have you talk about where they're from, because some of they're not all new, are they? I think some of them I feel like I recognise, or are they all fairly new? No,
they're all from the last 2 years, but I have put in work from way back, because I did a chapter on how to style about style changing. I kind of said in that chapter, it's not about style, it's more about finding your voice and how the voice changes. But yeah, there's small work in there as well. Some drawings that I did. But it's mostly stuff you'll have seen already, yeah, for sure.
And you're giving one of the best things that a teacher can give an instructor of painting is go on your journey. Go on your journey. It may seem like you're about to climb Mount Everest, but just go on that journey. And like you say there, that there's a universality within anybody that's approaching that blank canvas when they enter their studio or the corner of their room or wherever it is. We're all pretty much in the same space. And it's only fear that holds us back. Just do it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd say it's like in the workshops is got to find that sense of joy.
Yeah.
If there's no joy in the moment and no joy in what you're doing, then you're not doing it right, or you're doing the wrong thing. Maybe take up sculpture or poetry or writing a children's novel. Find the joy, because that's what keeps you there as well. And I think there's it's also about time as well. I'm very aware of time and how precious it is, and making the most of it. And that's not to say in the studio 8 hours a day. I can't do it. I haven't got the energy for that. But it's just making that moment, those 2 hours, 3 hours when you are, and being grateful for it, and having a sense of gratitude for that. I know I feel lucky in many ways to have found this route. My father would like me to have been a vet, I'm sure. But from what I saw, no, I didn't want to be a vet, so that wasn't going to happen. And
you followed that inspiration, and it's not an easy journey, is it? And that's the thing. And people may look from the outside and see, here's a book. This guy absolutely knows what he's doing. He's talented from when he was born, all of those kind of things. But it's a difficult journey. But I think you said something really important, and I always say this to people I teach when I said, I'd love to paint more, but I don't have the time. And I always say we can all just find half an hour a week. What happens when you find that half an hour a week and you set it aside, you just say, this is where I'm going to paint, set all of your stuff up. Suddenly you find yourself, the half hour's over. They continue. And then you start saying, well, I'll do half an hour twice a week. And before you know it, you've got this momentum going. Yeah. And I think for practicing artists like yourself, that momentum is so important, because that's where the joy, the overcoming the issues you were talking about, the problems are solved, all of that stuff, and it becomes it fuels itself after some time. And then you start to say, like you did earlier, I can't do 8 hours in here, that's enough for me. You then understand your limits, rather than trying to sort of scramble after making time for it. You then start to make time for yourself, for balance in your life.
Yeah, that's so true. Also, it's because I paint in the morning, so I take the dog out from a long walk or whatever, come in, and I know that from 9:30 to 12:30ish, lunchtime at least, that's my painting time. And sometimes I don't want to do it. Sometimes I don't want to do it. I just don't feel that energy's there, but I do it. And sometimes something good comes, but you just got to push yourself. Because I like to say, the day's gone. There was somebody on one of these reels, whatever that you get on Instagram, a Buddhist monk, saying that the life is in the day. Your life is in today. There's no such thing as the past or the future. It's not there. It's today. So that's where your mindfulness should be, or we should be aware of. This is where your life is right now. for what, it doesn't matter about mistakes, whatever you learn from those, but this is today. Just treat it as a fresh day, a whole new day. So
when is it your book is available, and where is it available for people to purchase?
It's end of May is the sort of muted time frame for that, for the release. I'm doing some events locally. So the Paragon Gallery, I'm doing a book launch there. I'm doing a book launch where I do my workshops. So I'm doing various things around the area. You can get it on Amazon. You can go through Crowwood Press, and I'll obviously putting stuff out on social media about that. You can get. It was nice at the Royal Academy in Bristol. I've now got it on their shelves, so that was nice. So I'm approaching other places where I know it can, have an effect. Yeah. And that was a buzz to get out in the Royal Academy because it was just nice. So there's Fred Cummings and there's Anna Prince Skies. So yeah, it is good. It is good.
Congratulations!
Thank
I mean,
you.
it really is.
Congratulations,
Okay.
Mark. That's brilliant. Your book looks fantastic. I look forward to it.
Oh,
So Alla Prima is available currently in Bristol.
They'll be in Waterstones as well. So it should be,
and on
yeah.
Amazon as well at the moment. And then
Amazon.
at the end of May, it will be a wider launch.
Yeah. So
available in
made
all
available.
good bookshops, as they say.
That's the one. Yeah, all good bookshops coming to you soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you talking about this, and we'll
No,
hopefully get.
thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much, Simon. That's really, really appreciated. And it's very kind of you, Richard, to be so
Great
generous.
to
Thank
see
you.
you, Mark,
Very
and
generous.
catch up again.
I was very distracted by the two flowers behind your head.
Yeah.
The whole time. Just
Yeah.
looking at
Yeah,
those.
so this here is by, and I'll give her a shout out actually, and maybe you put. So this is she lives in America now. Her name's Ina Paisley. So if you look at her on, if you put Ina Paisley on Instagram, she lived in the UK for ages. I think she's from Moldova or somewhere. I'm not sure, but I bought this off her. This is a little acrylic poppy painting.
Yeah.
But it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
And I frame this myself, but she's got such a lovely touch to her work, and I saw it and just had to have it. So.
No, it's a lovely thing to have.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. You become a collector as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You definitely become a collector.
Yeah.
Bought a piece from the art fair the other day. You just can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. You're only here once.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good I think it's good to be like with art books. I mean, I've got loads over there. Just being able to be surrounded by the thing that you're passionate about, but it's not just your passion. It's so many people's passions, and to share in that, and to have those beautiful things around as well is it's magical.
Yeah,
and to be an art appreciator, not just an artist.
Yes, exactly it. And I'm always looking for things I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
Normally, and it has to be something that I wouldn't do.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of still lifes coming. We buy still lifes or ceramics. We try ceramics.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it's food for the soul. Definitely.
Absolutely.